3 months ago, I was sent a video that shouldn't exist. At first, it appears to be a completely normal clip of a player driving in Mario Kart World, but when they cross over the finish line, an event that should trigger the beginning of the third and final lap, nothing happens. Now, this is strange enough on its own, but what really shocked me is that I had already seen this glitch before, in an entirely different game. 2 years ago, I made a video investigating a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe glitch called an anti-cut, or AC for short, where moving across very specific sharp corners at a high speed, right on the edge of where Lakitu would usually pick you up, causes the lap to not count. Exactly like what the Mario Kart World video showed. Was it possible that the exact same glitch had returned in a game made almost a decade later? The video itself was only 30 seconds long, and it didn't show whatever event supposedly caused the lap skip to occur. Additionally, the person who took it never bothered to go back in the replay to record any unusual occurrences, which was a bit strange, but I was still relatively certain that the video wasn't fake for a couple of reasons. Pretty much the only method for creating an inauthentic lap skip video would be to go around the course until lap 2, backtrack until you reach this finish line again, start the video, and then cross over the finish line without receiving the lap. The thing is though, the course the video was taken on, Crown City, isn't a typical course where you drive the exact same route 3 times in a row. It's actually a section track where each lap is its own differentiated segment. Now, the course does reconnect with itself near the end, but the start of the race is actually over here on the bridge, so it should be completely impossible to get to this point with a lap counter at 2. Furthermore, in a second video sent alongside the first clip, he actually does get the third lap upon crossing what is usually the final finish line, which should be impossible if it was faked in this way, not even to mention the fact that there are other racers around him and the position counter updates as expected. Now, it's theoretically possible that the video could be edited, but considering the amount of things that would need to be changed and the sheer amount of work that it would take to make a hoax this good, I was pretty confident that the video was legitimate. But was it the same glitch as the one from Mario Kart 8? If an anti-cut was the cause of this, it's pretty clear where it happened. This corner before the glider. Now, this isn't the only turn that looks like it might be sharp enough to have an AC on it. This one before the Golden Tire Trophy looks like a viable candidate, but here's the thing. In order for an AC to occur here, you would need to jump extremely far off the course. But there's really no reason why someone would do this during a race. The glider hairpin, on the other hand, is right next to a well-known shortcut spot, meaning it's entirely plausible that he was attempting this one and went too far to the right and ended up getting an AC. Also, at the very beginning of the first video, he gets dropped off by Lakitu, signifying that something unintentional had just happened at this exact corner. But at this point, the only way to know for sure if this was the case was to test it for myself. I got to the spot on Crown City and began theorizing about where exactly I needed to jump from to get this glitch to occur. I knew that I needed to cut as close to this corner as possible, but if I got too close, I would get picked up by Lakitu. I tried jumping straight down with a mushroom boost from a few different spots, but upon crossing the finish line, there was never any lap skip. I adjusted a bit and began trying to drift off of the ledge as closely to the wall as possible. After 20 or so failed attempts, I decided to try going off of the part of the ramp that sloped downwards instead. This required a bit of adjustment to the way that I approached the corner in the earlier section, but with some careful drifting, I managed to get turned around in time to properly cut off the corner. I spent a few hours trying this over and over with no success. I was about to take a break when suddenly, without warning, oh my gosh, it worked! I was shocked. Not only had I successfully recreated the lap skip from the video, but I had all but confirmed that yes, anti-cuts existed in Mario Kart World. Somehow, the glitch that I had spent hundreds of hours chasing in a completely different game was back. But the real reason that this excited me so much was that it had reignited the possibility of finally achieving a goal I had abandoned years ago. You see, when I had originally been investigating anti-cuts in 8 Deluxe, finding new places where the glitch worked was only half of my motivation. The true goal had always been getting the lap record, by completing more laps in a single race than anyone else in the game's history. Unfortunately, the maximum that I ever achieved by using the glitch was 6, too short of beating the course Baby Park, which has a regular lap count of 7. But now, with another 30 courses to search for ACs on, it might be possible to reach 8 laps in a single race after all. But hold on, I never showed the ending of the time trial that I got the Crown City anti-cut on, so what exactly happened? Well, when I crossed over what is usually the final finish line, it updated my lap count to 3, exactly like what was shown in the video. But then, at the next one, instead of the race ending, it just kept going. The same thing happened at the next one. The race only ended when I crossed over the final final finish line for a second time, leaving me with a total of 6 laps completed in one race, instantly tying my personal best from 8 Deluxe. So hold on a second. If I got a second successful AC on my 5th lap, wouldn't I be able to do another 3 afterwards, which would bring the total to 9? I attempted this for hours, and although I was able to get the first AC occasionally, in over 5 hours I didn't get the second one once. But in the back of my head, a theory I had held from the start was beginning to take form. Maybe it's not possible to get the second anti-cut at all. But before I explain why, I need to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Asphalt Legends, and their brand new JDM TurboFest event. Asphalt Legends is a free-to-play racing game by Gameloft for Switch, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile, featuring hundreds of the most legendary cars ever made from nearly any manufacturer you can think of. And now, 3 beloved JDM cars are joining the roster: the Nissan Skyline GTR, Toyota Supra, and my personal favorite, the Mazda RX-7 with its legendary rotary engine. But of course, what's a JDM car without the thing that made them famous in the first place? Drifting. In order to make the experience as authentic as possible, Asphalt Legends just got a brand new specialized drifting mode and a stunning Mount Fuji map. So if you've ever wanted to fly down Japanese backroads like a tofu delivery boy, download Asphalt Legends for free and use the QR code on screen or the link in the description to get a bunch of rewards. Thanks again to Asphalt Legends for sponsoring this video. And now, let's get back to my theory about the second anti-cut. It seems like there are essentially 3 criteria for finishing a race. You have to cross over the intended end finish line, which I'll call F, be on your 3rd lap, and not have invalidated said 3rd lap in any way. When we first cross over F, we are only on lap 2, which means that instead of ending the race, the game simply increments the counter to 3 out of 3. Then, since neither of the other finish lines are F, the race still continues until we reach F for the second time, when we finally meet all 3 criteria. When we add in the second anti-cut, we invalidate the current lap, meaning when we cross over the subsequent finish line, we are missing 2 criteria for ending the race. But here's the thing. On our first time around the course, when we crossed over F, we get to 3 out of 3 laps, meaning that crossing over the prior finish line must revalidate the lap. The problem, of course, is this means that after our second anti-cut, our lap gets revalidated anyways, so we have all 3 criteria for ending the race, meaning that barring an anti-cut on the 3rd lap, it's completely impossible to skip F for a second time. Put more simply, because the anti-cut is on lap 2 rather than lap 3, it has no effect the second time we go around the course, meaning the highest number of laps we can complete is 6. Of course, it's entirely possible that I'm misreading the situation and I just simply never got the second anti-cut due to bad luck rather than some structural obstacle. Regardless, I decided it was time to set this course aside and try to find more. The problem is that finding new ones is going to be nearly impossible, but to understand why, we need to talk about the checkpoint system. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, checkpoints worked as follows. Every track is essentially just a long rectangular tube cut into slices, called checkpoints. Some of these checkpoints perform special functions, such as finish line checkpoints, which are the mechanisms that actually give you a lap when you cross into them. But regardless, the rules for traversing any checkpoint are the same. You can only go from one checkpoint into the ones directly in front of or behind you, and you can't leave out the side or Lakitu will pick you up. Those of you familiar with mechanics from previous Mario Kart games probably think that I'm missing something here. There's another type of checkpoint, the key checkpoint. These are interspersed among the regular checkpoints and they keep track of your progress during the race. Going into every single one of them is required for the lap to count. Now, this system absolutely does exist. Changing one of these key checkpoints into a regular checkpoint with mods will cause the lap not to be counted. But it turns out that going into every checkpoint between the starting line and finish line is also required for a lap to count. Why do these seemingly redundant systems both exist? No idea. But the fact remains that skipping any checkpoint will cause a lap to not count. But then, how do anti-cuts exist? There should be no way to get around a checkpoint, because Lakitu will simply pick you up, right? Well, the thing is, even though from a lap counting perspective, this linear checkpoint system is all that exists, in reality, this is basically never the case. In actual races, the road intersects or loops back into itself. There are obstacles, jumps, dips, and all manner of twists and turns. And it's that last one that lets anti-cuts exist. You see, the game only checks which checkpoint you're in once per frame. So in certain corners where they are especially scrunched up, you can actually skip over one in between frames if you're going going fast enough. You never left the checkpoint, so Lakitu doesn't pick you up, but in the game's eyes, you were never actually in this checkpoint, so the lap doesn't count. Of course, there's no guarantee that the system works the same in Mario Kart World, but considering how this glitch returned virtually unchanged, and how this iteration of the checkpoint system resulted in essentially the first Mario Kart game without game-breaking shortcuts, it seems highly likely that Nintendo reused the same system, and these compressed checkpoints are the culprit. But the problem is, I can't know for sure where these crunched checkpoint corners are. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I could just look at their locations by putting the game files into a track editor, but Mario Kart World has yet to be decompiled, so there really isn't any way to know where these might be besides just trying a bunch of sharp corners. So that's what I did. I came up with a short list of a bunch of places that I wanted to try and got to testing. I decided to start with this corner near the end of Great Block Ruins. It's a hairpin like the one on Crown City, so I figured that it was probably a pretty solid option. The first thing I needed to do was figure out where the edge of this checkpoint was. I spent a few minutes mushrooming at this part until I had a rough idea, and then I got to work. The main issue with this one is that there's next to no space to gain speed. This is a problem because we are limited to 150cc, meaning it's difficult enough to go fast enough for the AC at full speed, and anything below would be basically impossible. Approaching directly from the side wasn't really a good option. Even with a mushroom, I would fall far short of where I needed to be, so I decided to go a bit farther forwards and attack it at a backwards facing angle instead. This method has another advantage too. The road in this section is angled downwards towards the apex of the curve, meaning when I approach from this direction, it forms a sort of ramp, allowing me to jump further. I spent a couple hours mushrooming at this corner with no successful lap skip before I realized that I needed to change something up. It still felt like I wasn't quite going fast enough. I might be able to get enough speed if I just drifted here and maintained my momentum from the previous section rather than stopping and turning around, but I had already tried this and deemed it impossible due to the fact that bouncing off of this cloud basically always landed me in an awkward spot. But then I remembered. This cloud isn't the only way to get through this previous section. There's also this floating platform up above. Maybe using this route would work better. I got up here and drifted off at an angle before landing on the platform and mushrooming over the gap. This felt a lot faster, but there was still no lap skip to be found. I tried this for a few more hours, but eventually decided that it would be better to move on to a different candidate. This one was Rainbow Road, right at the start. This corner isn't nearly as sharp as either of the previous two, but I decided that it was still an excellent option. Firstly, it's right at the start of the race, meaning I'll be able to throw a bunch of attempts at it without having to go through a long course every time. But the real reason I was so interested in this one was because despite the fact that Rainbow Road is a section track and therefore likely suffers from the same one anti-cut restriction as Crown City, it has a natural lap count of 4, meaning 2 loops around the entire thing would be enough to get me to the 8 laps I needed. So what angle should I jump from? With the 2 hairpins, it didn't matter as much, because there are generally so many cramped checkpoints in these types of corners that if you throw enough attempts at it, you'll probably skip over one eventually. But with a shallower corner like this, there might only be one available, which means that you need to be a lot more precise. But how are we supposed to figure this out? I mean, there's no way to know how these checkpoints are arranged, right? Well, that's not entirely true. You see, in Mario Kart 8, and presumably also Mario Kart World, when you get dropped off by Lakitu, the game always does so on the edge of a checkpoint. Now, this drop-off location can be anywhere along it and at any rotation, so all that these can really tell us on their own is that there is some checkpoint edge that goes through this point. But if you can get a second point, say a general estimation of where a few edges might meet, you can draw a line, giving us our checkpoint. Again, this is just a rough estimation based on where I get picked up by Lakitu when I jump at this area, so the actual checkpoint edges might be a bit closer together or too far apart for an anti-cut in the first place. But using this method gives us a decent idea of what jump angle will be the most effective. I began attempts at this corner by backing up a bit and then charging a jump while I mushroomed at the edge. 2 hours later, and no results. I switched up the kart combo to have a higher top speed and continued attempts. Another 4 hours passed, and still nothing. I had racked up hundreds of resets at this point, and had nothing to show for it. So despite the fact that I still had a slight bit of hope for success, I decided to set this aside and investigate my final hope for the 8-lap race, DK Spaceport. When you look at the map for this course, it's a immediately obvious why I'm interested in it. Nearly every single one of the course's 7 turns is a hairpin, and it has a natural lap count of 6, meaning an anti-cut on any one of these would mean a 12-lap race. I started by looking into the first corner. It's by far the thinnest of the hairpins, which seemed promising for finding checkpoint cramming, but it's covered by this weird blue structure. This completely blocks the part of the corner that would have the anti-cut, and even though it was close, I couldn't find a way to jump over it from this rail. But luckily, we have 5 more corners to try this on, so I continued. I found the respawn points at this next hairpin and discovered that there were quite a few checkpoints scattered throughout the turn that could theoretically meet in the middle. I was about to start jumping at the center to get an estimation of where the potential AC spot was when I realized something. There's a finish line here, meaning that there had to be a finish line type checkpoint edge perfectly lined up with it. Which means that if there was an anti-cut in this corner, it was almost certainly along the same line. I did a few respawn jumps and confirmed my theory. The checkpoints all seemed to meet at a point perfectly in line with what I predicted. This meant that the optimal strategy would be to jump perfectly along this line directly at the spot. But unfortunately, this small wall blocks me from doing this, and I didn't have enough space to get a charge jump to get over it. My solution was to go a bit to the right of it and jump off at a slight angle. This wasn't quite as precise, but I hoped that it would still be good enough to get an AC here. But here's the thing. The rest of the hairpins on this course are set up in nearly the exact same way with a finish line right before the curve. So even if this specific corner didn't work out, I essentially had a pre-made strategy that I could try on the others until I found one that did. So, hopes high, I got to testing. But as I jumped off of corner after corner, the time continued to add up. 2 hours, 6 hours, 8. I had tried every combination of angles, kart combination, and turn that I could think of, but still, the lap counted every single time. 10 hours of testing with no results. I didn't want to give up my best chance to get the lap record, but it seemed like I had no other choice. After 15 hours of trying, I finally decided to admit defeat. But there was still one more track that I wanted to take a look at, Mario Circuit. Now, there might be an AC on this course, but I didn't think the lap record was going to be possible to break here, mostly due to the course being a section track with only 3 laps, but also because it doesn't even loop back into itself like Crown City. It just ends at a completely different location, and after finishing the race, your character just kind of drives part of the 3rd lap again forever. Now, this could be saved by the fact that there is a hairpin on the 3rd lap, but it's completely covered by this billboard, meaning that the only viable AC spot was this one on the 2nd lap. This corner has a barrier in the middle with these blocks, but there's actually nothing on top of them that prevents you from getting over them and reaching the AC spot, which was about here. The problem is that it's really hard to get over these top blocks. I tried for hours to find a consistent setup for a charge jump, but pretty much the only times I made it over was when I got this strange wall ride glitch that gave me a bit of extra height. Unfortunately, this only happened about 1 in every 15 attempts, and it often sent me off in a completely different direction than I had aimed at. If I wanted to get this anti-cut, this method wasn't going to cut it. I needed a new way to make it over this. I needed a feather. This would completely solve my problem with height, but I still didn't love the idea. It almost seemed like cheating to give myself access to more items than the mushrooms from time trials, but I didn't see any other way I was getting this glitch without it, so I booted up a solo versus race, turned on the feather and some mushrooms for speed, and got to work. This felt way better than trying to get the glitch with a charge jump. Now, instead of getting over the blocks every 15 attempts, I could do it on nearly every single one, saved the few times when I activated the feather too late and smacked into the blocks. But still, 3 hours later, there was no lap skip. I felt like I wasn't going very fast when I passed by the AC spot, so I changed my kart combo to have a higher top speed and approached from a different angle to give me more time to speed up. I was clearly going faster with this method, but I was still a bit worried that starting from this spot was going to be more detrimental than helpful. My respawn checks had revealed that there was probably only one viable checkpoint in this area, and I was worried that going from this glancing angle would probably make skipping over it less likely. But I decided that the higher speed was worth it, and continued my attempts. And 1 hour later, this happened.
Oh my gosh, it worked! Oh my gosh, it worked! What?
Finally, after over 30 hours of fruitlessly throwing myself at corners, I had managed to find a new anti-cut. But the surprises weren't over yet. I crossed over F to get my 3rd lap and continued driving the rest of the shortened post-race lap 3. But when I went around for the 2nd time, the race still didn't end. The game was letting me do as many laps as I wanted. This was it. My chance to finally achieve the lap record that I had been chasing for nearly 2 years. All I had to do was keep driving and hope the race didn't end. And it didn't. I was able to keep doing the laps all the way until the race naturally timed out after 10 minutes. In total, I completed 21 laps, completely destroying my goal of 8 and setting what is, in all likelihood, the record number of laps across every Mario Kart game ever made. So the question I had to ask is, why? Why did the game just let me keep doing laps like that? Well, as seems to be the case with everything else in this video, I can only speculate. My best guess is that there's probably a key checkpoint over here that's required for the third lap to count, but on this shortened third lap, we never pass through it at all. It's also possible that once you're in this shortened lap, you end up in a completely different part of the checkpoint system that just doesn't have a finish line checkpoint here, so there's no place for the race to end anyways. But at this point, I was satisfied with my 21 laps and decided to let Mario Kart World take a break. At least for now. I spent a lot of time working on this video, so I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. And thank you for watching.